Have you ever woken up feeling like the days already slipped out of your hands? Maybe you reached for your phone before even getting out of bed, scrolled through endless notifications, and suddenly you're reacting instead of living. It's a familiar spiral, and it's one that the Stoics warned us about nearly 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." But let's be honest, most of us don't wake up thinking like that. We wake up anxious, distracted, already running behind. But what if I told you you could reclaim your mornings, not with hype hustle or some viral routine, but with intention, clarity, and the grounded wisdom of ancient Stoicism? In this episode, we're diving into 10 timeless actions you should do every single morning to center your mind, strengthen your spirit, and live more deliberately. By the end, you'll walk away with a morning practice that's not just productive, it's transformative. And if this message moves you even a little, share it with someone you care about. They might need this more than you think. Let's begin. The first habit? Wake up like a philosopher. No, you don't need a robot school, but you do need a mindset. When your eyes first open, before checking your phone, before checking the time, pause and ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? Not what you want to do, not what you need to get done, but who you want to be. Kind? Focused? Unshaken? This single moment, this question, sets the tone for everything. Because in Stoicism, the quality of your life isn't measured by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond. So start by choosing. Then comes the second practice, getting comfortable. Seneca said, "It is in times of security that the soul should prepare itself for difficulty." You know what that looks like today? Take a cold shower. Do 20 push-ups. Sit in silence with your thoughts for 5 minutes. Whatever it is, do something hard, something uncomfortable. Not to suffer, but to remind yourself, you are not fragile. You are not soft. Every morning discomfort is a rehearsal, a way to train your mind not to flinch when life throws chaos your way. And it always will. Third, practice presence. Most of us wake up already thinking about 5 p.m., the traffic, the meetings, the inbox. But Epictetus reminds us, there is only one path to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. And what's beyond your power at 7 a.m.? Almost everything. So ground yourself. Drink your coffee slowly. Feel the sunlight hit your skin. Smell the air. Breathe fully, deeply. When you train your attention, you train your freedom. Think about that. Fourth, right. Even just a sentence. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every morning. His meditations weren't for an audience. They were reminders, anchors. Do the same. Write what you're grateful for, what you want to remember, what you're trying to let go of. Not to perform, but to reflect. Journaling is how you talk to your soul without interruption. And in a world of constant noise, that's sacred. Fifth, visualize the obstacles. This might sound odd, but Stoics practice something called premedit 80 omalorum, the premeditation of misfortunes. Every morning, picture what could go wrong. Traffic, criticism, delays, disappointments. Not to worry, but to prepare. Because when you've already anticipated the punch, it doesn't hit as hard. More than that, you stop fearing the unpredictable. You begin to see that most problems aren't personal. They're just part of life. So when they arrive, you nod. I expected you. And you move on. We'll continue with the next 5 habits in the following section. Now let's continue our Stoic morning with the 6th practice. Detach from your ego. Before you dive into work, before you speak to anyone, ask yourself, am I being driven by purpose or by pride? Because pride wants recognition. Pride wants likes, applause, attention. But purpose? It's quiet. It does what needs to be done, even if no one is watching. Epictetus put it like this: if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Your morning is the perfect time to reset your motives. Don't chase the illusion of looking successful. Live with integrity instead. Let your actions be enough. 7th, read something timeless. 1 page, 1 paragraph, 1 quote. Pick up the Meditations, the letters from a Stoic, or even a modern distillation. Because what you feed your mind in the first hour shapes your lens for the entire day. If you wake up with gossip, anger, or envy, that's the energy you'll carry. But if you begin with wisdom, you're even more likely to respond with wisdom. Even something as simple as, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Marcus Aurelius. That line alone can change the course of your choices today. 8th, remind yourself what's in your control. Make a simple list. What can I influence today? What must I release? This is not about giving up. It's about focusing your energy where it actually matters. You can't control other people's opinions. You can control your effort. You can't control outcomes. You can control your mindset. You can't control the world. You can control how you show up in it. Every morning is a chance to drop the mental weight of trying to manage the uncontrollable. And when you do, peace follows. 9th, say no to digital chaos. You might not like this one, but don't start your day in someone else's world. No emails, no social media, no news, at least for the first 30 minutes. Because your mind, like a sponge, absorbs whatever it touches first. And if the first thing it touches is chaos, you'll carry that chaos all day. Instead, choose silence. Choose presence. Choose yourself before the world floods in. Seneca wrote, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Scrolling first thing in the morning is pure imagination. Everyone is highlight reel drama, fear. That's not how you win the day. That's how you surrender it. And finally, number 10, serve. In some small way. Hold the door for someone. Send a thoughtful message. Help your partner. Smile at a stranger. Stoicism isn't selfish. It's not cold. It's a call to live with virtue, and that means helping where you can. Marcus Aurelius wrote, men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then, or bear with them. When you begin your day with contribution, even the smallest act, you rewire your mind to seek meaning, not just comfort. And here's the magic. These 10 practices, they don't take hours. They don't require perfection. But when done with consistency and intention, they forge a calm, focused, grounded life. A stoic life. And that kind of life doesn't just react to the world. It shapes it. So tomorrow morning, and every morning after that, don't just wake up. Wake up on purpose. If they could do it 2,000 years ago, so can you. Let's take a step back. Because it's not just what you do each morning. It's how you do it and why. You can check every box. Meditate. Journal. Visualize. But if you're just going through the motions, you're not transforming. You're just performing. The Stoics didn't care for rituals as much as they cared for results. They weren't trying to be perfect humans. They were trying to become more free. Free from emotion, minus-driven chaos. Free from social expectations. Free from their own worst impulses. And that kind of freedom, it starts before sunrise. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you woke up and felt at peace before anything happened? No email. No deadline. No rush. Just you. Awake. Aware. And centered. That's rare. But it's possible. And the way to it is not more productivity. It's more philosophy. Let's revisit a few of the habits we mentioned. And go deeper. Take the first wake up like a philosopher. You might think that means waking up early at 5 a.m., like Jocko or Goggins or some billionaire on YouTube. But the Stoics weren't interested in gimmicks. Marcus Aurelius, even as an emperor, struggled to get out of bed. He literally wrote in his journal, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself I have to go to work as a human being." He didn't beat himself up. He reminded himself, "I am here to do what I was made for." You too were made for something. Not just comfort. Not just scrolling. You were made for contribution. For strength. For clarity. And that starts the second your eyes open. So don't reach for your phone. Reach for your principles. Instead of what do I have to do today? Ask what kind of person do I want to become today? Because every action is a vote for the kind of character you're building. And mornings? That's when your vote counts the most. Now let's dig deeper into discomfort habit number 2. We're not built for it anymore. Modern life has removed so much pain that even minor inconvenience feels unbearable. Cold weather. We crank the heater. Hunger? We order food in 3 clicks. Boredom? We doom scroll. But Seneca warned us. Soft living weakens the soul. He wasn't glorifying suffering. He was pointing to a deeper truth. The less you expose yourself to discomfort voluntarily, the more it controls you. So when you take a cold shower, you're not trying to be tough. You're telling your nervous system, "I'm not afraid of this." When you push your body with exercise before the emails, the meetings, the distractions, you're saying, "I move. I choose. I do not avoid effort." Even sitting still for 10 minutes, in total silence, no phone, no music, no noise. It's a confrontation with your own mind. And it's one most people run from. But not you. Because freedom is forged in the fire of discomfort. And morning is your training ground. Let's go deeper with presence. It sounds simple, but it's rare. How often are you truly present with your morning coffee? Not sipping while scrolling. Not drinking while thinking about traffic. Just being with the cup. Smelling it. Tasting it. Feeling the heat in your hands. You think that's trivial. It's not. That's awareness. And awareness is the gateway to power. Because when you're really present, you're not being dragged by fear of the future or regret of the past. You're grounded, anchored, alive. The Stoics believe this moment now is all we ever own. As Seneca said, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. You don't need a retreat. You don't need a guru. You need a minute of pure attention. Each morning give yourself that, and you'll find that clarity follows you. Now journaling. Let's not romanticize it. You don't need a leather notebook or a fancy pen. You need honesty. Marcus Aurelius didn't write beautiful prose. He wrote reminders, warnings, reflections. Things like, "You're not immortal. Stop acting like you'll live forever." Or, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Some mornings, write what you fear. Some, what you hope. Other days, just write, "I'm struggling, but I'm here." That's enough. The practice of journaling is not about productivity. It's about alignment. Are you living by your values? Are you clear on what matters? Are you reacting or responding? If your morning doesn't involve some moment of inner dialogue, you're outsourcing your direction to the world. Now let's expand on premedit omalo from the anticipation of hardship. Most people spend their mornings visualizing their goals. That's fine. But the Stoics visualize their problems. Why? Because reality always involves friction. And if you expect smooth roads, you'll panic when potholes appear. But if you expect challenge, you meet it head minus on. So picture it. Someone cuts you off. Someone criticizes you. Plans fall apart. And you, instead of spiraling, you remember, this is what I prepared for. Your mind becomes like a shield. Not cold. Not numb. Just steady. Like the sea during a storm, waves crash, but the depths stay calm. That's what Stoic mornings do. They don't make you emotional. They make you resilient. And that, my friend, is the foundation of freedom. Let's slow down and talk about one of the most overlooked practices of all. Not productivity, not planning, but detachment. Remember habit 6? Detach from your ego. This one hits differently. Because in the modern world, we've been trained to obsess over self-minus image, to curate, to present, to perform. But that performance, it's exhausting. The Stoics remind us of a simple truth. Your worth is not based on how you perceive. It's based on how you live. When Epictetus says, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. HES not asking us to act like fools. HES saying stop craving validation. Stop shaping your life around the opinions of people who don't even know your inner world. Stop measuring success in likes on great tests. Instead, measure it in peace. That quiet confidence you feel when you live in alignment with your values. That's the real scoreboard. So how do you practice that in the morning? You check in with yourself honestly. Ask, am I doing this to look good or to do good? Is this goal mine, or was it planted by someone else? Who would I be if no one were watching? These aren't soft questions. They're brutal. And they're necessary. Because ego is subtle. It'll show up as ambition, as motivation, even as discipline. But the moment your morning becomes a performance for the world, you've lost the game. The Stoic path doesn't shine outward. It burns inward. So start there. Now let's go deeper into habit 7. Read something timeless. You've probably heard the phrase, you are what you eat. Well, you're also what you consume mentally. And in the digital age, your morning mind is like a dry sponge. Whatever touches it first gets absorbed deeply. So if you reach for gossip, fear-minus-driven headlines, or flashy posts, that noise echoes in your thoughts all day. But if you begin with wisdom, even just one passage, it changes your posture toward life. Try this. Instead of scrolling Instagram, scroll through meditations. Take 30 seconds and read. Begin each day by telling yourself, today, I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill-will, and selfishness. It sounds harsh, right? But it's freeing. Because when you expect reality, you stop resenting it. And when you begin your morning with that mindset, no meeting, no rude comment, no delay can knock you off balance. That's the power of reading the timeless. And it's not just about Stoic texts. It could be a line from Viktor Frankl, a paragraph from James Clear, a quote from the Buddha. The key is this: feed your soul before you feed your schedule. Otherwise, the world will feed you confusion, and you'll call it normal. Now habitate, remind yourself what's in your control. It sounds simple, obvious even, but it's the cornerstone of Stoicism. Let me put it this way. If your peace depends on other people behaving well, you'll never find peace. If your mood rises and falls with traffic, headlines, or algorithms, you're not living, you're reacting. So here's a powerful morning exercise. Take a deep breath and list 3 things you can control today. Then list 3 things you cannot and let them go. Here's an example. I can control how I respond to stress. I can control how I treat others. I can control the effort I give. I cannot control how others react. I cannot control traffic. I cannot control random events. Now breathe again. Because you've just drawn a line between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Seneca wrote, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." So many of our anxieties come from trying to manipulate what was never in our hands. Let that go, and you'll walk lighter. On to habit 9, say no to digital chaos. Look, this one's not popular, because we're addicted. Not just to the phone, but to checking, to knowing, to that little rush when a notification pops up. But what if you broke that pattern? What if for the first hour of your day, you weren't reachable? Not because you're lazy, because you're intentional. The moment you open an app, you've surrendered your focus to someone else's agenda. But when you keep your space clear, you allow your own thoughts to rise, your own clarity, your own direction. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine if Marcus Aurelius had Twitter. You think he would have scrolled endlessly, debated trolls, compared his life to another emperor's curated feed? Of course not. He would open his journal, faced the blank page, and written something like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You want strength? Start by protecting your mental space. Don't let your first thoughts be borrowed from strangers. Let them come from within. That's where wisdom lies. Finally, habit 10 serve. This one is the most surprising and the most essential, because the Stoic morning is not just about preparing yourself. It's about preparing to give, to contribute, to uplift, to be useful. Marcus Aurelius said, "What is your art? To be good. Not to be known. Not to be rich. To be good." So look for one small way to serve every morning. It could be helping your child with kindness, not impatience. It could be texting a friend something thoughtful. It could be smiling at the barista sincerely. These aren't grand gestures. They're reminders you are not alone. You are part of something bigger, and service grounds you in that truth. Each morning becomes more than just getting ready. It becomes a ceremony, a ritual of realignment. You move from noise to stillness, from self-minus obsession to self-minus awareness, from routine to reverence. Because the morning, when done with intention, is not the start of a day. It's the start of a life, repeated daily, reshaped gradually, refined in the quiet discipline of dawn. Let's pause for a second, because maybe you're wondering, what if I don't have time for all of this? 10 practices, 10 habits. That's a lot before 8 a.m. But here's a truth you need to hear really, believe it. It's not about time. It's about intention. Stoicism is not a checklist. It's a compass. You don't have to do all 10 habits every single morning. You don't even have to do them perfectly. You just have to remember who you are, and then choose to live from that place, even if just for a moment. The Stoic morning isn't about making your life more complicated. It's about making your mind more calm. So let's tie all of this together. Because these habits, they're not isolated. They build on each other. They create momentum. Let's walk through a single Stoic morning, not in theory, but in experience. Picture this. You wake up before the noise begins. It's still. The sky is soft. The world hasn't asked anything of you yet. And instead of reaching for your phone, you reach inward. You breathe. And you ask, what kind of human will I be today? You remind yourself, you're not here to impress. You're not here to dominate. You're here to live well. You stretch. Maybe you splash cold water on your face. You do something that makes your body alert. Not because it's fun, but because it builds strength. And in that discomfort you smile, because you remember Seneca's words. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Then instead of rushing to get ahead, you pause. Use it. Maybe you journal. Maybe you breathe. Maybe you just drink your coffee and feel your heartbeat. That's presence. That's returning to yourself. You open your notebook and write one line. I don't control the world, but I do control my choices. You visualize the day ahead. The good, the bad, the annoying. You imagine someone cutting you off in traffic. Someone misunderstanding your words. An unexpected obstacle. But instead of dreading it, you greet it. This too is training. This is how a Stoic morning unfolds. You feed your mind not with noise, but with truth. A quote, a paragraph, a reminder from Marcus or Seneca or Epictetus. You read, don't argue what a good man should be. Be one. And you realize you don't need more opinions. You need more action. So you step away from your screen. You close the tabs in your mind. You begin the work of being useful. Maybe that means helping someone in your home. Maybe it means being kind, being clear, being present. That's service. And in that moment, before the world floods in, you are whole. Not perfect. Not flawless. Just whole. But what happens when things do go wrong? What happens when the day, despite all your preparation, spirals? Here's what the Stoics would say. That's the moment you've been training for. The morning isn't magic. It doesn't prevent chaos. It prepares you to face it without losing your center. Epictetus said, "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace." Think about that. What if peace didn't come from avoiding discomfort, but from embracing it? What if calm wasn't about things going right, but about staying grounded when they go wrong? That's what the Stoic morning really teaches us. It's not about controlling the day. It's about controlling your character. So the next time something breaks, someone snaps, or plans fall apart, you don't fall apart with them. You remember who you are. You remember what you practiced. You respond with reason instead of reaction, with courage instead of complaint, with focus instead of fear. And slowly over weeks, over months, that morning practice becomes a morning presence. A calmness people can feel. A clarity people notice. Not because you say you're Stoic, but because you live it. And that, my friend, is the real secret. It's not in the journal, not in the quote, not even in the silence. It's in the moment you choose to act from principle, when everything else is pulling you away from it. That's where the Stoic morning lies. Not in the sunrise, but in the stillness it awakens inside you. So if you do nothing else tomorrow, don't chase motivation. Don't wait for the perfect system. Don't search for peace in a podcast or productivity hack. Just return to yourself. As, what kind of person am I becoming? And then act like it for 5 minutes. That's where it starts. And if you do that over and over again, you won't just have better mornings. You'll build a better life. Let's go even deeper now. Because we've talked about practices, habits, principles. But let's talk about identity. Because that's what the Stoics were really after. Not just changing what you do, but changing who you are. See, the danger of morning routines today is this. They often become performance, a highlight reel, a ritual of self minus importance. Look at my ice bath. Look at my biohacking device. Look at my perfect green smoothie with collagen and gratitude sprinkles. But the Stoics didn't care about the aesthetic. They cared about integrity. They didn't ask, how does this make me look? They asked, does this help me live with virtue? That's the word we keep coming back to. Virtue. To the Stoics, this was everything. They believed a good life was built on external success, but on internal alignment with the four cardinal virtues. Wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. So now, let's connect those virtues to your mornings. Because when you shape your identity around them, your routine isn't just a way to start the day. It becomes a way to shape your soul. 1. Wisdom. What does it mean to start your morning with wisdom? It means asking questions, not just seeking answers. It means reading words that make you think more deeply, not just scroll more blindly. It means noticing your own thoughts and asking, is this true? Is this helpful? Wisdom is humility in action. It's admitting that your first emotional reaction might not be your best one. It's delaying judgment. It's choosing to learn instead of assume. So when you journal, you're not just venting. You're reflecting, examining, refining. That's wisdom practiced in silence. 2. Courage. We often think of courage as loud, brave, daring. But in the Stoic sense, courage begins the moment you get out of bed. When you don't want to. It's saying no to comfort. Yes to effort. It's doing what's right, even when it's hard and especially when no one sees it. Taking a cold shower? That's courage. Speaking gently to your partner, even when you're tired. That's courage. Facing your inbox without letting anxiety define you? That's courage. And every morning is filled with micro-minus opportunities to choose it. 3. Justice. Now this one is interesting, because we don't often link justice with personal routines. But justice, to the Stoics, wasn't about courtrooms. It was about relationships. It was about treating others fairly, kindly, respectfully. So when you hold the door, when you forgive quickly, when you pause before you speak harshly, that's morning justice. And more than that, it's asking, how can I serve today? Who can I help? What can I give, not just take? This turns your morning from a self-centered pursuit into a preparation to be useful. And usefulness is one of the deepest sources of meaning. 4. Temperance. This is the quiet virtue. Self-control, balance, moderation. And it's especially powerful in the morning, when temptation is at its peak. Temptation to oversleep, to scroll, to overeat, to overthink. Temperance whispers, you don't need more. You need less. Less clutter. Less stimulation. Less impulse. So you eat simply. You sit quietly. You act intentionally. Temperance turns your morning into a sanctuary. A space where you are not ruled by cravings or chaos, but by clarity. Let me ask you something now. If you were to build a morning around these virtues, what would change? Would you need less noise? Would you rush less? Would you treat your time as sacred, not as a burden? Because here's what most people miss. Your mornings reveal your real priorities. Not what you say you care about, but what you actually do. If you say you want peace but start your day with panic, there's a gap. And that gap isn't shameful. It's directional. It shows you where to grow. Seneca wrote, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. So maybe the end of your old morning, the distracted, anxious, autopilot version, is exactly what needs to die. So something wiser, stronger, more grounded can rise. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about living according to nature. They didn't mean hugging trees. They meant living according to your highest nature, your rational, resilient, responsible self. A self that shows up with presence, not panic. With calm, not chaos. With principle, not performance. And that self, it doesn't appear by accident. It's forged slowly, patiently in the quiet hours before the world starts talking. So here's your challenge. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, don't reach for noise. Reach for virtue, even for 5 minutes. Ask yourself, where can I apply wisdom this morning? Where can I choose courage, even in small things? How can I practice justice, even if it's just a kind word? Where can I show temperance, by doing less and being more? And then act on it. No one needs to see it. No one needs to clap. Because the reward isn't applause. It's alignment. And the more mornings you live in alignment, the less the chaos of the world can pull you out of place. You become your own center, your own calm, your own compass. And that's a life worth waking up for. Let's continue. Because if you've made it this far, you're not just looking for hacks. You're looking for something deeper. A way to live that doesn't fall apart every time life does. And that begins by looking at your internal posture. Not how you hold your body, but how you hold your mind. The Stoics had a word for this: prohairesis, your inner faculty of choice. Your ability to decide how you interpret events, how you respond, how you live. And it's in the morning before the world touches you. That prohairesis is at its most powerful. Because here's the truth. Every day you walk into a world you cannot control. And every day, you bring with you a mind you can. So let me ask, how do you begin your day? With complaints? Or with clarity? Do you start already resisting the day ahead? Or do you start by accepting reality and stepping into it eyes open, heart steady? Epictetus said, Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That line might be the most important morning mantra you'll ever need. Because most suffering comes not from life itself, but from our refusal to accept how life works. So here's what I recommend. Make a habit right after you wake of naming two columns in your mind. Column 1, what I control. Column 2, what I release. Today, you control how you speak, how you react, how much presence you bring. You don't control what others say, how fast the line moves, whether things go according to plan. Make peace with the second list. Then focus fully on the first. This isn't passive. This is power the kind the Stoics live by. Because a person who knows what's theirs to carry doesn't waste strength on what isn't. That's why your morning matters. It's not about controlling the day. It's about remembering what's yours and letting go of the rest. Let's talk about letting go. Most people carry yesterday into today like a backpack full of bricks. Guilt, regret, unfinished arguments, unspoken resentment. But Stoicism is about release. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. It is not the actions of others that trouble us, but our own judgments of them." Let that sink in. Your morning is not the time to relive old wounds. It's the time to clean the lens you see through. So try this. Before you begin the day, forgive. Forgive yourself for yesterday's mistakes. Forgive others not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Then write this line. I release what I cannot carry. Say it again. Say it until your nervous system believes you. That's not weakness. That's clarity. And clarity is your greatest advantage. Now let's go even deeper. Let's talk about identity drift, the slow erosion of who you are, caused by doing what's easy instead of what's right. Most people don't wake up and decide to lose themselves. They just forget to remember who they are. That's why your morning matters more than your goals, more than your vision board, more than your ambition. Because your morning is where you either align with your identity or abandon it. So, how do you prevent identity drift? Simple. You anchor your actions to your values. And you start with small things. Want to be more disciplined? Make your bed. Want to be more intentional? Turn off your notifications. Want to be more compassionate? Say something kind to the first person you see. These aren't grand gestures. They're micro-minus alignments. And micro-minus alignments done consistently change your life more than any dramatic overhaul ever could. Because you're not trying to win the morning. You're trying to become someone new. And that doesn't happen in one big leap. It happens in 10,000 invisible moments. The moment you pause instead of react. The moment you breathe instead of complain. The moment you act from reason, not reactivity. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, let's call him Thomas. Every morning, Thomas used to wake up and go straight to his phone. He'd check the news, scroll social media, open his inbox. By 7 a.m., he was already tense. By 9 a.m., he was exhausted. One day, he read a single quote from Epictetus. No man is free who is not master of himself. It shook him, because he realized he had given the first hour of his day away. To fear, to noise, to distraction. So he changed one thing. The next morning, instead of checking his phone, he sat in silence for 5 minutes. Then he wrote in a notebook, I want to live with calm, clarity, and compassion. That was it. 5 minutes. One intention. And you know what happened? Nothing dramatic. But over weeks, he stopped feeling behind all the time. He started noticing his kids' laughter. He responded better to stress. He stopped needing everyone to like him. And most importantly, he started liking himself again. That's the power of a Stoic morning. Not in changing your schedule, but in changing your relationship with yourself. So tomorrow, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. And if you ever forget how to stop, start here really believe it. Wake up. Sit still. Ask, what kind of person do I want to be today? Breathe. Remember, some things are in my control. Others aren't. Choose to act from virtue, not emotion. Do that. Do it badly, if you must. But do it consistently. Because the morning isn't a performance. It's a practice. And in practice, you don't need to be flawless. You just need to show up. We've come far. We've broken down the habits. We've connected them to the Stoic virtues. We've talked identity, presence, and purpose. But now we go deeper into what may be the most transformational truth of all. You don't control what the day brings, but you absolutely control what you bring to the day. Let that sit for a moment. You don't control the weather. You don't control the tone of someone's voice. You don't control the news cycle, or your boss's attitude, or a stranger's rudeness. But you control your posture. You control your preparation. You control your principle. And that's why the Stoic morning isn't a checklist, it's a shield. It's mental armor. It's emotional discipline. It's clarity in a world designed to distract you. See, the modern world rewards reaction. It feeds off immediacy. Comment now. Respond now. Be outraged now. But the Stoics? They train themselves to respond with reason, not reactivity. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So the question is, how do you build that reaction time? How do you create the space between stimulus and response? The answer is morning rehearsal. Every morning, you rehearse your mindset. Every morning, you practice self-command. Because if you wait until the chaos hits to find your peace, it's too late. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're driving to work. Someone cuts you off aggressively. Your body tenses. Your ego flares. You're ready to explode. But then a pause. A space. You remember what you practiced at dawn. You remember the words of Marcus. You have power over your mind, not outside events. And instead of shouting, you breathe. You loosen your grip. You nod, there it is. And you let it go. You don't do that because you're weak. You do that because you've rehearsed who you are. That's what a Stoic morning does. It doesn't remove emotion. It rewires your response. And slowly, you stop being a puppet of the world and start becoming the author of your experience. Now let's address something honest. You won't always feel motivated. Some mornings, you'll wake up tired, moody, discouraged. The idea of living with virtue will feel like a burden. You'll want to go back to bed. You'll want to skip the silence. You'll want to check your phone and disappear. Good. That's the real training. Because Stoicism is not about doing the right thing when you feel like it. It's about doing the right thing, especially when you don't. Discipline is not hard when it's easy. It's hard when it's hard. But that's the point. Seneca reminds us, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. And your mornings? They will be full of friction. But friction is fuel if you let it be. So here's the truth most don't want to hear. You're not going to find time for all of this. You're going to have to make time. You're going to have to say no to things that don't serve your alignment. You're going to have to wake up earlier, or go to bed sooner, or remove habits that drain your attention. That's not punishment. That's ownership. You say you want clarity. You say you want peace. You say you want to live on purpose. Great. Prove it with your first hour. Because what you do in that hour, it echoes all day. Let me show you how. Let's compare the mornings. Morning A. You snooze your alarm. Wake up late. Check your phone. Get bombarded with messages. Rush through your shower. Chug coffee. Yell at traffic. Scroll Instagram at red lights. Arrive at work frazzled, irritable, already behind. Morning B. You rise early. You sit in silence. You ask yourself one clear question. What kind of person will I be today? You visualize your challenges. You journal a few lines. You move your body even briefly. You read one page of something ancient. You drink your coffee slowly. You breathe deeply. Then you step into the day. Same external world. Different inner posture. Which one do you think lives better? Loves better? Leads better? That's not just a better morning. That's a better life. And no, it's not always pretty. Some mornings will be clumsy. Some routines will break. Some habits will slip. That's fine. The point isn't perfection. The point is return. Return to stillness. Return to virtue. Return to who you are over and over again. Let me leave you with this. Every morning, life hands you two options. You can repeat, or you can renew. You can repeat your old patterns, or you can renew your mindset, your attention, your integrity. And that choice, tiny as it seems, is how transformation begins. Not in grand resolutions, but in a single quiet moment, where you stop, you breathe, and you say to yourself, today, I live on purpose. Let's shift now, from morning ritual to morning meeting, because even the most well-minded designed routine, without meaning, becomes another prison, another thing to optimize, another system to perfect, another box to check off. And the Stoics weren't ever interested in optimization. They were interested in liberation. They didn't wake up early to be productive. They woke up early to be present, to greet the day with eyes unclouded, with principles intact. And that, right there, is what you must not forget. Your morning isn't about doing more. It's about being more aligned, more intentional, more awake, more you. The modern world will try to sell you routines wrapped in performance. Wake up at 4 o'clock. Ice bath. Protein shake. Inbox zero. Crush the day. But none of that matters if you don't know why you're redoing it. And here's where Stoicism cuts through the noise. It doesn't ask, are you winning the morning? It asks, are you living in accordance with your nature? Not your impulses. Your nature. That's a profound distinction, because your impulses want comfort, validation, dopamine, short-minded termies. But your nature, your higher self, wants meaning, clarity, courage, contribution. And in the first moments of your day, you are either feeding your impulses or honoring your nature. So, how do you know the difference? Let me give you a simple test. When you finish a morning task, ask, do I feel expanded or diminished? Scrolling usually leaves you scattered. Silence leaves you clear. Rushing leaves you tense. Presence leaves you steady. And so the practice becomes noticing. This is the next level of a Stoic morning. Not just doing the habits, but noticing their effect on your soul. Epictetus taught his students this practice of inner feedback. He would say, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. It sounds simple, but it's radical, because it asks you to start each day with a declaration, a vision of who you're becoming, before the noise, before the world, before the reactions. Try this tomorrow. Wake up. Don't check your phone. Instead, sit up in bed, put your feet on the floor, and ask yourself, what do I stand for today? Not what you want to do, not what you hope will happen. What do you stand for? Kindness? Strength? Discipline? Patience? Name it, then live it. This small act of naming is not just mental. It's moral. It's anchoring. Because when you stand for something, the storms of the day don't blow you off course. You become like a lighthouse in rough waters. Still, steady, lit from within. And that brings us to a powerful Stoic image. The archer. Imagine this. You are an archer. Your job is to train. Aim. Release. That's it. You do not control the wind. You do not control the movement of the target. You do not control whether the arrow lands. That part belongs to fate. But you control the preparation, the alignment, the practice. That's your morning. You are drawing your bow. You are focusing your breath. You are aiming for principle. And then, you release. You step into the day. You allow what comes to come. And you respond not with panic, but with poise. Because you did your part. You kept your side clean. And that's the Stoic contract. Prepare with intention. Let go with grace. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." And that's not some Instagram quote. It's a spiritual orientation, a daily act of remembering that life is a gift, not a guarantee. Because one day, you won't wake up, and no one knows when that day will come. So what do? We meet each morning not with entitlement, but with awe. We open our eyes and remember, I don't get to live this day twice. So how will I greet it? With bitterness or with reverence? With reaction or with readiness? That's your real morning routine. Not the coffee, not the planner, not the productivity podcast. Your routine is how you meet your life, your attention, your intention. And the more you treat each morning as a return, not just a restart, the more you stop existing and start living. So let's bring it back. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need a moment to sit, to breathe, to ask, what is mine to do today? And then do that with integrity, with presence, with peace. That's the Stoic way. Let's talk about the subtle war being fought every morning. A war you might not even notice. Not a war of noise, but of narrative. Because every day you wake up, there's a story already waiting for you. Sometimes it's whispered by your phone. Sometimes by your past. Sometimes by the voice in your own head. And that story says, you're already behind. You need to prove something today. You're not enough yet. That's the default script. And most people spend their entire lives reacting to it. But here's the secret the Stoics know. You don't have to believe every thought you think. You can write your own story starting at sunrise. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up and ask, what does the world expect of me? He asked, what kind of man do I wish to be even if no one is watching? And then he lived that answer one decision at a time. So let me ask you, whose story are you living? The algorithms? The cultures? Your younger selves? Or something deliberate? Because if your morning begins with reaction, you'll spend the rest of the day chasing meaning in all the wrong places. But if it begins with creation, with your own thoughts, your own values, your own breath, you've already won. And that victory doesn't need noise. It doesn't need approval. It just needs attention. That's the real morning routine. The internal script you choose to live by. So how do you rewrite that script? Simple. You reclaim the first 15 minutes. No input. No performance. Just presence. Here's what that might look like. You wait. You don't check the time because you woke on your terms. You don't check your phone because nothing urgent can't wait 15 minutes. Instead, you sit up. You place your feet on the floor. And you ask, what is within my control today? Then you name 3 things. My attitude. My attention. My actions. You breathe. You write. Maybe a line. Maybe a thought. Maybe a prayer. Then, you read not content, but wisdom. And when you're done, you say not aloud, but inwardly. Let me live today with clarity, not confusion. Let me meet others with calm, not conflict. Let me respond, not react. That is ritual, not performance. That is preparation, not pressure. You see, the Stoics weren't monks in caves. They were leaders, teachers, workers, Parents, people like you navigating messy lives. And they didn't rise above the world. They stood within it, but stood differently. And that difference was intention. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. So embody it first thing in the morning. Don't just talk about stillness. Be still. Don't just talk about priorities. Live them. Don't just post quotes. Practice them, especially when no one's looking. That's how identity is forged. In the invisible hours. In the decisions no one applauds. In the quiet victories that shape your days. And, eventually, your life. But here's what stops most people. They wait to feel like it. They wait for the right mood. The perfect setup. The quiet house. The right energy. And the Stoics would laugh. Because if you only act on your best days, you'll never become your best self. The Stoics knew. Discipline is not a mood. It's a choice. You wake up groggy, you still journal. You wake up distracted, you still breathe. You wake up anxious, you still sit with yourself and say, "This moment is mine. And what I do with it is my responsibility." Let me tell you something radical. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to remember who you are. That's why the morning matters. Not because of what it ends, but because of what it helps you remember. And what do you need to remember? That you are not your impulses. You are not your circumstances. You are not your past. You are your present intention, brought to life through action. And action doesn't require permission. It just requires the first step. So tomorrow morning, take it. Even if it's clumsy. Even if it's quiet. Even if no one knows. Sit. Breathe. Reflect. Move. Write. Rehearse the values you want to live by. That's the Stoic way. And over time, it becomes not just your routine, but your refuge. A place to return to. A space where the world cannot reach you. Where you meet the most important person you'll ever know. Yourself. Not the version the world sees, but the version that watches everything. That quiet witness. That calm center. That ancient soul. And every time you return there, you find peace again. By now, you've seen something most people never will. That the most powerful part of your day isn't the big win. Isn't the breakthrough. Isn't the applause. It's that small, almost invisible window. Right after you wake up. When the world hasn't shaped you yet. That space is sacred. It's where your character is either reinforced or surrendered. Let me put it another way. Every morning, you meet a fork in the road. One path leads back to who you were. The other leads forward to who you're becoming. And the choice is quiet. It won't scream at you. It won't beg for attention. It'll whisper. Sit with yourself. Write one line. Breathe before you rush. Choose presence over panic. Most people miss it because they're in a hurry to become something instead of being someone. But not you. Not anymore. You now know what the Stoics knew. That the man who rises slowly, with calm, with clarity, is stronger than the man who rises quickly, driven by anxiety and ego. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And every morning, you are given a choice to be brave. Brave enough to face yourself. Brave enough to live without distraction. Brave enough to choose stillness in a world that thrives on noise. But what does that look like, really? What does a brave morning feel like? It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like honesty. It feels like, I didn't sleep great, but I won't let it ruin my focus. It feels like, I'm worried about today, but I won't let fear run the show. It feels like, I want to escape into my phone, but instead, it'll stay with myself. That is quiet bravery, and it multiplies over time. Because here's the truth. A single morning of clarity won't change your life, but 100 of them. That changes your soul. You stop chasing. You start arriving. You stop reacting. You start responding. And eventually, You stop being shaken by the world because you've built something unshakable within. That's the gift of a Stoic morning. And let me be clear, it's not about being rigid. It's not about beating yourself up when you fall off track. It's about returning, again and again, to the version of yourself you respect most. Think of your morning routine like a compass. You don't always walk a perfect line, but each time you drift, you check the direction and correct your course. That's it. Progress, not perfection. Presence, not pressure. Now, let's bring this home, because everything we've talked about, all 10 habits, all these ideas, they all lead to one thing: agency. The ability to meet your life with full authorship. To stop being ruled by habit and start shaping your habits. To stop waiting for ideal conditions and start creating inner conditions. Because real freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's being free from what owns you. And most people, they're owned by the first 30 minutes of their day. Owned by their inbox. Owned by their anxiety. Owned by their screen. But you're different now. You don't serve the day. You shape it. Through breath. Through reflection. Through grounded, principle-based action. And no, this doesn't mean you'll never get pulled off track again. Of course you will. Life is messy. You're a human. But the difference now, you notice. You notice the drift. And instead of judging it, you simply come back. You return to the breath, to your journal, to your question. What kind of person do I want to be today? You ask it not once in a while, but every single day. And that's identity. Not built by declarations, but by quiet, repeated decisions. So tomorrow, when you wake, don't look for the perfect start. Look for the honest one. Sit up. Feel the weight of your body. Feel the light in the room. And just say to yourself, today, I remember who I am. Today, I live by what matters. Today, I meet life not with fear, but with presence. And if that moves you, if something deep in your chest whispers yes, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone. Someone who's lost in the noise. Someone who's looking for a way back home to themselves. Because we all need the reminder that it's not too late, that we don't have to rush, that we can begin again. Every single morning. So here we are, 12 parts later, 10 habits, thousands of words, and one very simple idea. You become what you repeatedly return to, not what you dream of, not what you promise yourself once a year, but what you do deliberately, in the quiet corners of your life. That's the essence of the Stoic morning. It's not a schedule. It's not a trend. It's not a 30-day challenge. It's a way of being, a rhythm, a recalibration, a conversation between you and your highest self. And the truth is, no one can do it for you. No one can sit in silence for you. No one can breathe for you. No one can practice restraint, reflect on virtue, or return to calm for you. Only you can do that. But here's the gift. You don't need a guru. You don't need a new app. You don't need to be extraordinary. You just need to begin. And begin again. That's what Stoicism has always been about. Not perfection, but practice. Not becoming untouchable, but becoming unshakable. Not controlling the world, but mastering the only domain that has ever truly been yours. Your inner life. And the morning? That's where the mastery begins. Not in huge steps, but in humble rituals. The Stoics didn't wait for motivation. They didn't wait for ease. They didn't wait for the right time. They acted deliberately, daily, despite the noise. And that's your invitation now. Because one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe decades from now, you will wake up for the last time. You won't know it's the last. You'll sit up, stretch, maybe sip your coffee, And sometime that day it'll all stop. Your goals, your worries, your regrets, they'll dissolve. And all that will remain is the quality of how you lived. Did you live reactively? Or did you live from principle? Did you chase attention? Or did you return to intention? Did you float through your mornings? Or did you walk through them with clarity, like a philosopher? That's what this has all been about. Not waking up early, but waking up fully. To your own power, to your own presence, to your own peace. And if you felt that shift, if something in you has stirred over the course of this journey, then please, let this be more than information. Let it be a seed, planted in your stillness, watered with repetition, nourished by your actions. And one day, without force, it will bloom, not into a louder life, but into a truer one. And in case you ever forget, in case the noise of the world makes you question your path, come back to this moment. Come back to the question, what is mine to do today? And the answer will always live inside you. Now breathe, rise, and begin again. Subscribe for more truths that shift your perspective. And share this with someone who's ready to live on purpose. Because the morning is not just the start of the day. It's the start of you.